Hello and welcome back to Reading with Mo, your place for bookish content here on YouTube. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of the worst books that I've read over the past year. And I kind of debated whether or not I really wanted to record this video and put this out in the world because I don't like to focus on negative, bad things, but I just felt like it was fitting because I already talked about the best books I read over the past year. I shared with you guys all the DNFs, so I'll leave links down to those two videos down below. I just felt like it just needed to be complete by sharing with you guys the worst books that I read over the last year. As you can see, it is now February. Ideally, this would have been something I sat down and did in January, but like I said, I was debating whether or not this was something that I wanted to put out there or not. Disclaimer before I get into these books is these are just books, in my opinion, I did not enjoy, but if you enjoyed them, I'm happy for you. I feel like every book has its audience, and just unfortunately for me, I just didn't pick these ones well, and I was not the audience for these books. I probably should have DNF'd them, and that would have been better for me, but no, every book I read can be a win, and I just wanted to sit down. I don't even have any notes or anything planned today. We're just going to go into the books. I made this list some time ago, and I really felt like I still wanted to share with you guys, and who knows, maybe it'll give you guys some help in picking out or deciding if you do want to read these books or not. These are not going to be in any particular order, but I do have 10 books that I felt were worth mentioning and sharing with you guys today. 6 of these were 2-star ratings and the rest were 3-star ratings. For me, 3-star rating isn't bad, but it also means that it's probably a book that I'm never going to honestly think about again, or it's just going to be in one ear out the other if I'm listening to it as an audiobook. I don't mind having read it, usually a 3-star read, except if it's one that I was like really anticipating and was thinking was going to be a 5-star rating and then I give it a 3, that can be a bit disappointing. Okay, first up of my 2-star ratings is Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman. I don't know how to say his last name. I've heard it both ways, Capote and Capote. This book originally I had been saving on my shelves for a while because I wanted to read. Ideally, I wanted to have a whole reading vlog where I read the book and then I watched the movie because I have not seen the movie with Audrey Hepburn. Towards the end of 2025, when I was kind of trying to make my reading goal for the year of 100 books, I decided to try to pick up a few shorter books, and this was a short book that had been sitting on my shelves for a while. I'm glad I didn't make a vlog, or maybe I should have. It could have been entertaining to see you guys watch me struggle through this book, and I still haven't even watched the movie, so I can't even say like the movie is better, but I have heard in reviews from people that the movie is better. Now, I know this book is probably a product of its time. This book originally came out in the 50s, and you can definitely see a lot of language and racism and comments that are very reflective of the era that it was written in. I am not giving it a 2-star rating because of that. I'm giving it a 2-star rating because I just thought this was such a boring book. Like, I did not care about the main characters at all. I know Holly Golightly is this iconic character within media, and maybe I'll get it more when I watch the movie. But based on this book, I did not care about her at all. I didn't get why everybody was so obsessed with her, including our main character, who I can't even remember his name now at this point, but we're reading the book from his perspective. I just thought it was so boring. And if this book was not as short as it was, I would definitely not have finished it, which is such a shame because typically, I really do enjoy reading classics, and I had a very beautiful edition of this book from Folio Society that had been sitting on my shelves for a few years, and now, unfortunately, it is in my unhaul pile. Number 2 is Only Lovers in the Building by Nadine Gonzalez. This book first caught my eye. It was definitely a cover read. I love the cover on this book, and also paired with the fact that it's set in Miami, and last year I had just moved to Miami, I really wanted to read this book. For me, this was also a chance to read a book that was out of my comfort zone. I say a lot and talk about a lot how romance books are just not a genre I typically gravitate towards, but over the past couple years, I have been a little bit more open to trying more of them. And I have been able to find a few that I have liked, but unfortunately, this was not one of them. Maybe if you're in the mood for like a beachy read, that you know you're just never going to think about again, then this is probably a book for you. The main premise of the story was we're following our main character who has had this really big change in her career. So she decides to spend the summer at this rental in Miami. And while she's there, her romance is with someone that she enjoys. They find out they each have like a love of reading romance books, and that's kind of like what sparks their um, friendship at first. I have a love-hate relationship with books that feature books or something to do with reading within the book itself. Sometimes it can be done well, but I feel like a lot of times authors like try too hard. And I get it. Like they're authors, they love reading, and so they want to incorporate their love of reading into their stories, but sometimes it can just be very cringe and just like really trying too hard. And I just, like I said, I have such a love-hate relationship when it comes to books about books. As far as romance tropes go, this book falls into like the slow burn, friends to lovers vibes, and unfortunately, it just was not a hit for me. Okay, next up, book number 3. We have one of the worst mystery thriller books that I have listened to or read in a long time. It was like one of those car crashes though that you just can't look away from, and all the characters were so terrible. I remember I just hate listening to the last part of this book, and I wasn't doing yet what I do now, which is I'll go online and try to find out the ending of a book if I'm not enjoying it, just so that I can have the satisfaction of knowing the ending without having to spend the time to get there. But either I tried to do that and the book was just too new. Nobody had posted a spoiler review yet at the time or what. But I ended up finishing this book pretty much all in one day. I think I just listened to it as background noise as I was cleaning. And this author has another book that's coming out this year, and I really love the cover on it, but I'm so traumatized from reading this book and how bad it was that I'm scared to pick up another book from this author. This book features a honeymoon gone wrong, and originally I was like, maybe I should read this while I'm on my honeymoon. I'm really glad I didn't, because the book was just so bad, and I'm glad I didn't have that memory tied to my honeymoon. The book is following the perspective of 3 main characters, and all of them were just horrible. I didn't care about any of them. They're all very dislikable, which main characters can be dislikable. That's not the issue I had. The issue was like they just felt so like caricature-ish, one-dimensional. They didn't feel like real people. I just never really cared about them as people to care about them. And I hate when that happens in books. I really want to care about the characters, whether I like them or not. Next up, we have Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yambo, another 2-star rating. This book was so disappointing on 2 levels because, first off, it was such a beautifully produced book. The naked hardback of underneath the dust jacket was so beautiful. When I first started reading this book, I think it was in January 2025. Like I had just moved here because I remember it was like the first book I was reading, and I had multiple times picked it up and put it down, and I should have just put it down for good. But it was just such a beautiful book itself. I really wanted to love it so that it could stay on my shelf, so I forced myself to finish it. And it just took me so long to get through this book. I feel like it was just so much story, but no actual substance to it. I feel like the author was trying to do way too many things within the novel itself. The premise sounded really interesting because we're following this pawn shop where people can pawn, I believe it was like memories or life's regrets, something like that. And then the girl's father goes missing, and that kind of sets her off on the journey of trying to find her father and what happened. And it's kind of this very mythical, surreal world that she lives in. And she goes on all these side quests with this guy, to save her dad. I forgot what happened with her dad. I feel like all the reviews I've personally heard online have not been favorable towards this book, but don't take that, if it's something you're interested in. It actually has a pretty decent rating on Goodreads, and there's a lot of positive reviews on Goodreads about this book. But for me, I don't like it, and I don't like it enough that I don't think I want to try another book by this author, unfortunately. And she has another book that's coming out this year called The Elsewhere Express, and I don't think I'm going to be giving that one a chance because I just was too scarred from this book, and I'm sad that I wasted my money on buying this book when I could have probably just checked it out from my library. Book number 5, you guys have to promise not to hate me for not enjoying and including on this list, and that is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, the follow-up to Fourth Wing, the second book in the Empyrean series. I think there's like 4 books in that series out now, or 3 or 4. And I went to the first book and I was pleasantly surprised by that one. It was one of my first experiences in reading a romantasy book. Maybe in part because I went in with such low expectations is why I like the first book so much. But going into this one, I just felt very lost. Maybe I let too much time pass in between the two. I should have just jumped straight into Iron Flame after I finished Fourth Wing. But regardless, it is how it is, and I did not like this book. I finished the book. I didn't. Yeah, I know I finished it, but at this point, I don't even have any recollection of it. Um, at this point, I'm even questioning if I did finish it, but I'm pretty sure I did because I didn't include this book on my DNFs, so I must have finished it. Anyways, at either point, I'm not going to continue on with this series. I have done a lot of reading over the past year, and since then have come to the conclusion that romantasy is not a genre that's ever going to be one of my favorites. I will still try one out here and there, but I'm not going in with high expectations. And I feel like I can't really say too much of why I didn't continue on with this book because it is the sequel and I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything. I just found the book overall disappointing as a follow-up to the first book. I just feel like I didn't connect with the writing. The book itself probably should have been shorter. As far as the characters go, I just didn't really have a strong investment to anybody in the series, and I just felt like I was missing something to really keep me more engaged and caring about what was happening with the characters. Violet and Xaden being the main characters, and obviously like their romance being a big overarching plot of the series. It just I didn't really care if they were together or not. And that's really bad when that's like a big plot point in your series. And so I decided I'm just going to take a step back from the series and spend my time reading some other things. Next up, book number 6 on the list is The Capital of Dreams by Heather O'Neill. This was the last of my 2-star ratings for the books that I read over the past year, and this book was just on this list mainly because it was just so unmemorable. This book tried, I think, to do too much. It was blending together like historical fiction, dystopian, a bit of like this fairy tale vibe almost felt like as I was reading the book is the vibes that I was getting, mixed with like some lit fic and fantasy. It was just a lot but nothing at the same time going on with this book. Like, I don't even remember like the purpose of this book. Our main character, she is living in this city as, I don't know, some big event or something is happening in her. She has to evacuate. They're evacuating all the kids. She's a child, and her mom wants her to like take her manuscript with her outside of the city to help protect as this like war or something, whatever is going on. It then becomes kind of like an adventure slash survival story. It just reads very much like a fever dream fairy tale. If you like those vibes, you'll love this book. But that's not really something I look for when I'm reading, so that's why I didn't really enjoy this one, and I do not even barely have any recollection of this book now after more than a year later. Book number 7 is a book that I picked up not from my own free will, but I am part of a book club, even though I haven't read any of the books over the past few months that they've picked. But last summer, one of the picks was One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. I gave this book a 3-star rating, but after discussing it and thinking more about it, it's probably even closer to like maybe a 2.5, 2.75 star rating. I think I was being just very generous with my rating at the time. This book has to do with grief, and it's a fictional book. Some magical realism is involved. We're following a main character. She goes on this trip that she was supposed to go with her mom to Italy, but her mom passes away, and she decides that she's still going to go. But then when she gets to the trip in Italy, her mom is there, but not her mom as she knew her, but as a teenage version of her mom, which is an interesting premise. This is something I could see as being interesting if you were to put it on the screen in like an hour-and-a-half Netflix movie. I forgot to also mention our main character is married, but then there was this kind of whole little like subplot of a possible fling with the guy. Like there's some like romantic vibes with the guy that she meets over there, and I really didn't like that aspect of the story. I don't know. It just, now I remember there being more things I really didn't like about the book after thinking about it, but now it's been so long, I've just put this book out of my mind. And most of the people that were at the book club discussion did not enjoy this book, and a lot of them didn't even make it to the end. I remember it being very weird that she would describe her mom as the love of her life, even more so than like her husband and stuff. And I don't know, just some of the ways that she was thinking about things and phrasing things, I was just like, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. Book number 8 is another sequel, a sequel that none of us seen coming and none of us asked for or needed, but was given to us, and I decided to pick it up. And that is The Woman in Suite 11 by Ruth Ware. This is the follow-up to The Woman in Cabin 10 or Girl in Cabin 10, something like that came out a long time ago. I remember I read the first book when it came out, and that was kind of when I was first starting to read mystery thriller books, and I really enjoyed it. I watched the Netflix adaptation. That was okay. Didn't really care for that. But when I heard there was a sequel coming out, I was like, well, I'll pick it up. I mean, what have I got to lose? I don't necessarily regret picking it up, but if I hadn't read it, my life would be no different either. It was definitely not a necessary book to publish. It definitely felt like a cash grab because the original movie had gotten the adaptation to put something else out there attached to the book and kind of just all around make some more money for everybody. So I'm not mad at it, but I'm one of those people who took the time to read the book, or at least I checked this one out from my library. I didn't purchase it myself. I can't really go into what this book is about as it's the sequel to a thriller, so anything I say will kind of be a spoiler. Okay, book number 9. Before I say the title of what it is, I know we've all had that feeling of going into a book and you think that it's so hyped and everybody loves it and you're going to love it too, and it's going to be a life-changing book. It's going to maybe possibly be like one of those new favorites, all-time favorites, and then you read it and you're like, this was it. Okay. For me, that was I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, translated by Ross Schwartz. I'd been seeing this book like mini all over the online book community, and I feel like it's definitely gotten a resurgence lately. Everybody and their mom's reading this book, which is good because I think it's really cool when like a backlist book kind of has its moment in the sun again, if you will. I wish I was one of the people really enjoying this book, but it wasn't for me. I'm glad it was very short because if it wasn't, I would not have finished this book. Even though I gave it a 3-star rating, I probably could have even knocked it down to a 2, to be honest. I'm not necessarily... This is a book I could have let sit on the TBR longer and spent the time reading something else, to be honest. This book isn't necessarily meant to be enjoyable, though I get it. It's supposed to be thought-provoking and have a lot of deep, profound underlying meaning and spark a lot of conversations, and for that it's very successful. But as far as enjoyability I like more story in my stories, and I just didn't really, for me, take away anything or get anything out of this book. Maybe if I did some more deep diving and digging into online discourse surrounding this book and doing more research and stuff, but I just really don't have the desire or time to do that with this book, so it will just remain as it was. And I'm also glad that I didn't buy this book because I almost was going to, just because I was having kind of a little bit of FOMO from everybody reading it, and I decided to check it out from my library, and that was the very smart decision on my part, and now I can spend my money on other books. And then last but not least, we have number 10, which is The Wilderness by Angela Flournoy. This book I gave a 3-star rating. It wasn't terrible. This is one of the books where I had a higher expectation. It was an anticipated book for me. I just thought I was going to love it a lot more than I did. So this one was on the list mainly because it was like disappointing for me. And I don't regret picking it up necessarily, but if I hadn't, it wouldn't have been the worst thing ever. Overall, I just really wanted to enjoy this book much more than I did. Not to say that it was like the terrible worst book I've ever read in my life, but it's also not something I would really recommend to anybody. It had some good moments in the book, but overall not enough to make this book memorable at all. I do think that when you have so many main characters, like this book has 5. I just finished reading a different book that had 5 main characters as well as point of view characters, and I feel like it's something that's really hard to do when you're reading a contemporary book, because it's really hard to like ground yourself in each of the characters when they each have like different families and jobs and hopes and dreams and aspirations. You're trying to keep everybody compartmentalized and like understand their relation to each other and to themselves, and it can be a bit more confusing reading a contemporary book. I feel like when it comes to maybe like fiction or dystopian, the characters have so much different things going on. It's kind of easier to remember. But yeah, when it comes to just contemporary books, all within the same storyline from 5 different characters, it's something that I feel like isn't impossible to do, but it's just really hard. And it's really hard to make each character distinctive and to really form much of an attachment to each of the characters because you are spending so much time in different people's heads and jumping around in the story. So, those are all the worst books that I read over the past year. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that I'm wrong about my opinion on any of these books? What were some of the worst books that you guys read over the past year? We can talk about it in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That's it for me today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.